Welcome back. We're about to call and embark on another tram, but before we do that, I'd like to review what we've learned so far during our time here in Plateau Island. We've made some significant strides in gathering information that we need to solve some of the biggest conundrums we've faced so far, specifically the marble puzzle and the wooden eye puzzle. First of all, we discovered via the map room on the upper level where the marbles will go. On the lower level, we discovered the colors of the various symbols that we've been seeing on the fire marble domes, using the lights that were shown via the underwater camera. Now, I didn't mention this, but the vast majority of those lights, except for I believe the one that called the wark for feeding, matched the totems that we saw in the lake on the upper level. And ultimately, I believe those lights are connected to those totems. Additionally, we found some footage of somebody in a room. It may be Catherine or a Rivenese native, but we don't really know who. As well as the identity of the first wooden eye. So with that information in hand, it's time to use this tram to go back to Jungle Island, I'm assuming at least. At least that appeared to be where this went, based on our view on the upper level. And indeed, it's right in front of us, so that is a good sign. Now, before I go on, you just gotta understand, when this game first came out, the pre-rendered graphics were already amazing. I mean, they were pretty revolutionary for 1997. But an entire animated movie that had the same graphical quality, or at least something pretty close to it, was just breathtaking. Well, we're here somewhere on Jungle Island, in some sort of cave, but we don't know exactly where. Well, no choice but to use this. Alright, well we found the call button, and there's also something else here. What the queso? Where exactly are we? Well, we're in the jungle somewhere. What did we just walk out of? Aha! It's the wark idol from earlier. Wait a second, this wasn't here earlier. Oh, very sneaky again. So wait, can we pull that back up again? We can do that. We could have done that earlier. It's pretty ingenious when you think about it too. I mean, keep in mind that Gen has pretty much indoctrinated all the villagers to be afraid of this thing. So even if they were here when this thing was open, they wouldn't want to walk into it. But we're not afraid of that. It's just a wooden elevator. And I'm curious to know if it goes any farther. Especially knowing that there's a fire marble dome right above our heads. Ah, success. Well, it's time to explore the upper level of the jungle. It's really quite beautiful up here. You can see the outside of it without sacrificing all the nice comforts of the inside. As usual, I'll take the right path first. And it appears that we found the scope that's attached to this dome. Well, let's see what the symbol is. I'm not going to really bother opening it right now. Okay, it appears to be that one that looks like a cat eye. And you know what? I will try opening it. Just for fun. We haven't done this in a little while. And since I'm not really too worried about... Oh wait, I guess I didn't exactly press it. There we go. And since we're not so worried about Gen finding us anymore, I don't really mind leaving this open. We can see the magma-filled area down below. But where does this lead? Uh-oh. Looks like that same guard tower has yet again spotted us. Except this time we're kind of more on his level. Again, you gotta wonder, are they afraid of us because of the rebels and their tactics and activities? Or are they afraid of us because Gen is commanding them to be afraid of everybody? Or both, perhaps. Whatever the case may be, the view here is quite lovely. I particularly like these plants surrounding this little grotto area. But our main concern is this building. What exactly is this? It's ringed by all these stones. Whatever it is, it seems to be quite important. Okay. That door just crashed right into the rock there. What in the world is that thing? Well, it's not exactly too hard to tell based on these tusks. It's an entire work skeleton. Or a skull, rather. A whole skeleton would be even more massive. And once again, we see Gen's fetish with chairs with levers. I guess that one doesn't work, so it's on to this one. Well, that was pretty cool. We get a nice view of the village from here. And directly below is a view of the work gallows. It's not too difficult to figure out what this is. This is where Gen probably watches all these executions. And now let's see what this thing does. That sends 5 panels closing in there, revealing Gen's star symbol once more. I suppose you could probably imagine the scene here. I suppose what would happen is that somebody would be lowered via that bar with their feet in those little holes. And as they got lower and lower and lower, maybe they had a chance to repent of their sins or something. And if Gen was feeling particularly merciful, he might close this thing on them. Or he might just open it back up again and close them just to tease them. Either way, it's not a very pretty sight. So, what exactly did this accomplish for us, though? I mean, I would hope that this trip up here wasn't entirely for nothing. Well, let's think about this for a minute. Earlier when we first came to the work gallows, we lowered that bar, remember? But we weren't able to grab onto it, and it left us behind and went right back up. Well, check this out right here. You might recall way back when I first entered the village that I noted that there was a pathway on an upper level somewhere, and I couldn't quite figure out how to get to it. But here it seems like we can see quite a bit of it. There's a walkway that curves around here, and leading from the walkway is a board that connects to the work gallows. So if we can ride that bar back up now, we might be able to check this out. There is one other thing though. Now that I've moved the lever back, I've been able to uncover where the lever was basically blocking our view, this little building here. Maybe this is where they kept people before they walked out onto the plank and everything. Maybe Catherine's even there. Probably not. I mean, he'd probably hide her somewhere far from the village. But you never know. Well, let's ride this thing back down and see if we can do something with this new possibility that we've unlocked. One thing is rather funny right here. Look at the bottom half of this, bottom right corner of the screen. It almost looks like there's like a horse head there being formed by that shadow. That's what I've always thought as a kid when I first played this. And eventually it just became so stuck in my head that it just ran with me on every single subsequent playthrough. Now before we go there though, I think this is a good time as any to stop and figure out what those numbers that we saw in Gen's journal were. Now, we know what the first one is. It's the number 2. However, the second number was a completely different number, as well as the 3 after it. The second number looked like the number 10 with the number 2 combined. So we can therefore assume that that might be the number 12. Also, the third number was the number 10 with the number 3, the little K-like symbol. So we can also assume that that was probably the number 13. But the 2 numbers after that had symbols that looked rather unfamiliar. However, let's consider for a minute what they might mean. The fourth number had the number 2 once more, but the symbol that was accompanying it, that was juxtaposed on top of it, was a completely different one. In fact, it looked like a rotated version of the number 3, turned 90 degrees sideways. Now let's run with what we've been given so far. Number 10 is a rotated 2. So what does that make number 5? Well, 5 is a horizontal line, and the number 1 is a vertical line. So if 5 is a rotated 1, and 10 is a rotated 2, then that must mean that 15 is a rotated 3, and 20 must be a rotated 4. So the fourth number in this combination is a 15 plus 2, which equals 17. Finally, the last number is a number 4 rotated sideways, with a 3 on top of it, which would make it 23. Let's just test this out for fun. I'm not really expecting this to work or anything, as far as the book inside, just because we haven't used the golden dome and the marble puzzle yet, but you never know. I really don't want to go to Gen's age, though, just because we haven't gotten our prison book back. Let's see if this works. Aha, I hear noises and gears and stuff. And there it is. The all-important linking book. But, as you can see, this was pretty much a moot point. It's not working. And we're just going to have to leave it for later. Looks like this button just resets the dome back to gold mode. It's a good thing we're not wiggling around too much, or otherwise we might get crushed by some of this stuff moving around. But, as far as the domes are concerned, that's pretty much all we can do until we tackle that marble puzzle. And before we can do that, we're going to have to figure out how we can use that wood and eye information. But we'll have to explore that further in the next video.